mistake. Hard to believe, right, Jen? Or at least I thought I did. Of course, it wasn't really a mistake. I was thinking about Joseph Campbell's Garden of Eden interpretation when I came up with the talk title, The Secret Garden. Well, there's no secret in the Joseph Campbell version. And how many of you are aware of Joseph Campbell? Anybody? Yes. So he's a writer, an author, a philosopher, a teacher that's really well known in our metaphysical world. And he actually wrote The Hero with 1,000 Faces, exploring the different archetypes of what's called the hero's journey. And we're all here as our own hero on this journey here in Earth School. Now you probably know the Garden of Eden basics. The biblical story, Genesis, God creates Adam, puts him in that biblical Garden of Eden, a beautiful, plentiful garden, paradise. Then he plants the tree of life in the garden, and then the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And what does he tell Adam? Don't eat, you can eat anything, just not anything from that tree of the knowledge of good and evil. But then he goes and creates Eve. Adam needs a companion, and out of one of his ribs, and we can talk about that another day, but then the serpent slithers in and he seduces Eve. And what does he do? Of course he has to eat the apple from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And of course she takes Adam down with her. He can't just stand there and watch her eat it. She's gonna get him to eat it, of course. So God kicked Adam out of that beautiful garden, so they couldn't grab the fruit from the tree of life, which would have made them live forever. So here we are. Now I kept unconsciously, subconsciously inserting the word secret into that tale, that myth of the garden, that story of the garden, or some people would call it history of the Garden of Eden. But I think a lot of you know the story of the Secret Garden. Has anybody read The Secret Garden? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I actually had never read it, and it's on a lot of people's list of favorite books. So, thinking about The Secret Garden, I think I had it on the brain because a girlfriend of mine actually discussed it the other day. And most of us have some secrets locked away in our garden of our mind, of our heart. In Joseph Campbell's book, Thou Art That, Transforming Religious Metaphor, he says, the garden is that metaphor of our mind and our thinking in terms of opposites, man and woman, and everything else in between, we would say now. This book was written a long time ago. The opposites of good and evil. Now, if you think in terms of the book, The Secret Garden, I had never seen any of the movies. I had never read the book, so I had to go check it out. And I did the shortcut. I watched one of the movies. It was the 1993 version. And this is a children's book. This children's story, we have our hero Mary. And she's a neglected, unloved child in India, born of British parents in India, wealthy, coddled, pampered, ignored though. Her parents didn't want her. She was ignored and not loved. And we know what happens when people aren't loved. Now, cholera epidemic kills the parents. In the movie, it's actually an earthquake, if you saw the movie instead of read the book. So Mary is sent to England to live with her uncle in a grand manner. But he's still grieving his wife that died 10 years ago. And oh my God, when little Mary steps off of the earthquake orphan ship, they called it in the movie, that brought all these orphans from India, British citizens, back to Great Britain to have a new guardian. She's standing there, and all the other orphans, they're being greeted by their guardians. But poor Mary is left standing alone. This is a children's book. And I tell you what, they were a lot darker back in those days. It was written in 1911, so I don't know, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Maybe it really helps prepare kids for life, I don't know. But Mary's basically a spoiled brat. A spoiled brat that's very traumatized. And so she doesn't like anybody, she doesn't like where she lives. She finds out about this garden. She finds out about her aunt that died in this garden 10 years ago. But the uncle locked the garden up in grief. Nobody really went into it and saw it for those 10 years. And it's kind of like how we lock away our traumas. The things that traumatize us, we don't let see the light of day. We store them. And so I think that's a really good metaphor, an image of what we sometimes do to ourselves. But of course, Mary, our hero, finds the key. She unlocks it with that hidden door. She finds it, she unlocks the garden and walks in and finds all this beautiful, or it was a beautiful garden, but the plants all look dead. Something green popping up from between the dead leaves and the dead branches that are on the ground. And she starts tending it. And about that same time, she discovers her cousin Colin, another 10-year-old, but who has been hidden away, another locked away secret. And they called him in the book, it's crippled, but we would use a different term. Is handicapped? Disabled, right, the right term. But he's throwing temper tantrums, he's spoiled, but he's locked away. Not really seeing the outside world. So Mary manages to get that wheelchair, him into the wheelchair with some help, gets him out into that garden, which by now, some months later, is bursting with life because she's been tending it. She opened that door, she flung that gate open so the light of day can see what was there. Kind of like what happens when we unlock ourselves and let those traumas that we've been hiding show to the light of day, and we can tend to them and help heal them. Now this is the first time Colin has been outside for years. And those dead-looking plants, they blossomed and opened her eyes to the beauty of the world, but they also opened his eyes. Her journey helped him as well. And it also helped the uncle, who later showed up after being gone for months and months and saw his son. Oh my God, he's actually well and he can walk now. And so his grief started abating as well. But it was like Mary had eaten from that forbidden tree of knowledge, but didn't get kicked out of the garden. Go Mary! Her hero's journey allowed her to introduce so much to herself, her uncle, her cousin, because she let the light shine on what appeared too withered to thrive. What's too withered? Sometimes we as humans can feel too withered to thrive, but there's always, always hope. Now I came across a 1988 PBS miniseries, and it was called Joseph Campbell and the Power of Myth. Oh my gosh, if you haven't seen it, I recommend it highly. Campbell is interviewed by Bill Moyers, and he tells Bill that mystic traditions and myths call us to a deeper awareness of the very act of living itself. And they guide us through those trials and those traumas from birth to death, those things that we share here in Earth School. And Campbell also told Myers, people say that what we're seeking is meaning for life. And he said, I don't think that's what we're seeking. I think what we're seeking is the experience of being alive. Now, isn't that what we're doing here at the Mindful Spiritual Center? Becoming more mindful about our spirituality and becoming present to experience the day-to-day life, good, bad, or indifferent? To be able to feel the love that we always talk about and to share that love consciously. working. So it's very much like Mary and Adam and Eve. And Joseph Campbell also told his students, if you want to help this world, what you have to teach, if you're a teacher, what you have to teach is how to live in it. Now, I think Bob Jordan over here, thank you. I'm so glad that you're able to join us, Bob, after what you've been going through. He's been an inspiration in that respect. Through health challenges, financial challenges, relationship challenges. As long as I've known Bob, he's never shied away from his truth. His garden gate is open for all to see at all times. Guess who was the first person who called me 7 years ago after that first Mindful Spiritual Center service that we had? Well, John and I were actually at Lowe's at the time because something or another broke in the house. You know how that goes. It could have been anything. I can't even remember. And we're looking for that, whatever thingamajig was going to fix the broken thing. Now I was tired because I'm already, working my 40-plus hour job and I'm teaching on the side. And we worked pretty hard to put that first Mindful Spiritual Center service together. Even though it was divinely guided, it was stressful, as you can imagine. And we're looking for the thingamajig, and my phone rings. And I look at it, and it's Bob calling, and I thought, I just felt this overwhelming exhaustion. I just don't have the energy to talk right now. Something's broke in the house. We just finished this, and if you've ever done a talk or had a big event, you sometimes feel this at the end, and you just want to collapse a little bit and relax and let it all go. But then it hit me. I have to be available and present for our new congregation. So I took the call. And instead of asking for something or needing something, Bob wanted to share how much he enjoyed that service. How he thought Lena and Rich and Megan and I had done such a great job putting it together in such a short time. He also had a few good suggestions as well. Now, as many of you know, Bob has recently been given a difficult diagnosis. So when the oncologist left his hospital room last week, after discussing the big C word, we did some praying. I was there. I'm blessed to have been there so that he didn't have to be by himself. And when he heard that, and I asked Bob at the end, I said, do you want to add something, Bob? Bob said, I turn it over to you, God. It's in your hands. He said, I'd like to stay around a little longer, but if this is it, if this is my time, I'm ready. And then he gave me the biggest smile I've ever seen. Be like Bob.
Yeah.
Open, transparent, and faithful through it all. What treasures, what blossoms have you locked up away in your secret garden? It's time to fling open that locked gate. Let the light of day, the light of God, that beautiful, loving God energy that we're sharing right here, right now, let that in. Have that heightened experience of being alive, and then go out and teach others how to live in it, just by being present and open to them. That's your hero's journey. That's our hero's journey. And that's where fulfillment starts, doing God's will. God bless.